Hi, and welcome to this week's episode. Today we're going to be taking a look at trait 49, which is around revolutions and principles. Ultimately, what we're looking at here is having a deep understanding of what our principles are, knowing what we stand for, connecting to people who not only align to our principles, but are also there to support us and for us to support them in return. This particular trait is tribal, which means that it is about the team, it is about the group, it's about the community. It's connected to our emotional awareness. So whenever we've got something connected to emotional awareness, we've got this potential for rising from hope to pain through the wave of the emotions. And regardless of whether this is your decision-making strategy or not, the emotional awareness, all of us will need to be paying a little bit of attention to waiting for time, waiting over time for clarity. Because with these emotions, and specifically with trait 49, we have an emotional wave that comes out of need. And with this need, there is this ratcheting. So it's this building and building and building and building of emotions, and then ultimately a crash. If we were to make decisions or take any action from this emotional high or this emotional low, then more than likely we're going to be off track. We're going to be operating out of a shadow as opposed to aligned with where we really need to move with this energy. When we look at trait 49 around principles, we want to know what our principles are, and we want to be aligned with others who are aligned to the same principles as us. And these principles are really directly connected to social needs. So are people's basic needs being met? Are they getting the resources that they need? Is there a healthy distribution of resources in order to have those needs met? And if we look at this and if we see that these needs are not being met, then this is where the revolution comes in. This is where we get up and we fight against the imbalance or the disharmony to bring everything into balance. There is a theme of acceptance and rejection that comes here, because number one, are we going to accept or reject those that go against our principles? And are we going to be accepted or rejected because of our principles? And so you're going to see this theme come up this week. And because this particular trait is in the emotional awareness center, in the emotional awareness function, what you're going to find is that there is a nervousness, a fear attached to it. And this particular fear is the fear of rejection. So what you're going to find here is potentially your principles are going to be challenged. And this fear will come up, what do I do? Do I bend my principles out of this fear of if I don't, I will be rejected? Or do I hold firm? Do I stand firm under my principles? And I really stand up for these principles and ensure that I have the support behind those principles. And what you're going to find is that those of us that stand up for our principles, that's really attractive. And, to give you a personal example in the world of business, you often, when you're running a business, you're going to have clients, and there are times where clients may challenge your principles, challenge the way that you do things in your business. And you have to come to this place of, well, do I bend my principles to meet the demands of a client? Do I bend them to out of fear of if I don't, they're going to reject me, they're going to stop being my client? Or do I hold firm and say, look, these are our principles, this is how we run our business. You're either aligned to those principles, and if you are, you're going to get the amazing support that we give in our company. Or if you're not aligned to those, then that's totally fine. Then we're not meant to work together and we can go our separate ways. And what you'll often find is when you stand up for your principles, when you firmly rooted into this is the way we do businesses and this is why we do it this way, it's going to be really attractive to a client and they're going to jump on board. They're going to be like, wow, I really want to be involved in this. I want to support. I want to have this collaboration in alignment to these principles. And if, of course, if they don't, then going separate ways is going to be ultimately better for both parties. The shadow that can show up with the undefined emotional awareness function is avoiding confrontation and truth. And when we're looking at it in relation to this week's trait, number one, you can avoid the confrontation and truth that comes around really standing up for your principles. You may be afraid of what kind of confrontation could come up if you do stand up for your principles, and so you step into the shadow. Part of this trait is about really only holding on to the principles that are necessary. And when the shadow steps in, you avoid that. You avoid that confrontation. You avoid the truth of really whittling down your principles to get to those ones that are ultimately the most necessary ones for you to move forward. The third way that it could show up in the shadow is avoiding the confrontation and truth of when somebody challenges your principles. So you bend to their will or you do what they want because you don't want to step into any type of confrontation against your principles. And so these are the things that I would encourage you to look out for as we're moving into this week. How is the shadow playing out? How is it showing up for you in this week? So as you're moving through the energy this week, there are some key things to look out for. What kind of sensitivity do you have to this energy, and how does that play out for you? Is it time for a revolution? A revolution around your own principles, a revolution in your business, a revolution in your career, a revolution in your relationship? And remembering that because it's connected to emotional awareness, not stepping into that revolution from a place of high or low, but rather from a place of clarity. There is no truth in the now when we come to emotional awareness. We only get clarity over time. And so if you find yourself rushing into taking action because you feel a charged emotion, then you are not in alignment. Remember, our decision-making strategy is always where we need to go to when making decisions. And regardless of whether your decision-making strategy is emotional or not, you're going to feel this charged emotional energy this week. And so just watch that and see how that plays out. Whether this is usually defined in you, so it's consistent, or whether it's not usually defined in you, it's inconsistent. It's going to show up in different ways. And pay attention to that. Do you suddenly feel a lot more emotions than you normally would? Or is there another way that it shows up for you? This week's a really great time to really investigate your principles and really understanding whether or not the principles that you're holding on to are the ones to move forward with. Have you looked at the needs in the environment? Are those being met? Are the basic and the necessary things in place in your life, in your career, and in your business to move forward with? If you're running a team, this would be a great week to really get your team together and, number one, check in. What are the principles that this team is aligned to? Is every member in the team aligned to those principles? Is every member in the team feeling as if their basic needs are being met? Because if they're not, this is where revolution is going to happen. This is where people are going to rise up against those in leadership positions because they're not feeling as if the necessary things are in place. And so preempting that by having a team meeting, at the beginning of this energy could really help you to ensure that that revolution doesn't happen, and especially a revolution that's charged by emotional energy, where people are not following their their decision-making strategy, but rather are taking action from this charged emotional energy. I'd also encourage you to just watch this emotional energy, watch the highs and lows, knowing that you don't need to take action from either a high or low, but just riding through the emotional energy and waiting for that place of clarity. Thanks for watching this week, and it'll be interesting to see how this charged emotional energy can lead to revolutions, and about, how radical does that revolution really need to be, because this charged emotional energy that's here is really going to prompt that happening. If you've enjoyed this video, or if you feel that someone could benefit from this information, then please share it. I'm always interested in seeing how the experiment plays out for each individual, so please share your comments, or if you have any questions, please ask those, and I'll definitely respond to that. And if you want to stay up to date with the energy transits that come in and out, then please hit the subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss any episodes. Thanks for tuning in today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Bye for now.